All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody. I am back. I am back from my Asia tour. If y'all were following me on social media, this is Jimmy, the AccuSensei, and my partner, Chris McKee, a nutritionist. So, uh, yeah, welcome to our podcast. And we're excited to bring interesting guests to our podcast. And today we've got another interesting guest, Erik Stanley. And so let me just do a little intro on Erik. Erik and I actually met this year, and so we're part of a group, kind of like a faith-driven entrepreneur group, and really, his story and what he does is very inspirational, and so had to have him on our show. And Erik, little background, has coached hundreds of runners in the Austin area and across the country with online coaching, right? He has trained dozens of Boston qualifiers, 100-mile runners. 100 miles. I don't even think I've ever ran 100 miles. As well as he also trains
Most people.
uh, intro level runners learning to run for the first time. So whether you're just starting or you're a professional, Erik has trained both. Erik was an All-American runner for UT Austin, Hook 'em Horns. He then ran for Adidas Rogue Athletic Club, a post-collegiate Olympic development team in Austin. And in 2014, Erik established Trail Roots. So Erik, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you,
Welcome, Eric.
Jimmy. Thank you,
Welcome,
Chris.
welcome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
excited
we're
to be
delighted.
here.
Yeah, we're delighted to have you. And I think the topic today, I know from my experience of working with clients for so many years, 20 plus years, it's so important, not only for the physical activity, but what you're doing is also, Jimmy and I believe this. We are physical, we are mental, and we are spiritual beings. We can't separate any of that out. So you work with all of this. So I think this is really, really cool. I know there's a little background on you. Just share a little bit about, you said you got started running really young. So share with us that story, because I
Yeah.
think that's really cool. You started really young.
Well, yeah. So my mom lived in Las Vegas for a few years when I was growing up, and during the summers I would visit her. And we would put on country music, and we'd go run around the desert basically. Um, and that was kind of a fun time for us to spend together, because my parents were divorced and I didn't see her most of the year. And so when I would be there in the summer, it was just a time for me and her to go run and connect. And besides that, I played soccer. I played club soccer growing up, and I just loved running. I felt like it was an expression for me. Um, I was pretty fast in most of the races I was doing, and on the field days and the stuff. And then middle school, I started really doing well competitively, where my coaches started talking to me about a scholarship, and you know, if you keep running well, we'll see what happens. And so I just kind of kept at it. And in high school, I really took off and became, I ran a 403 mile my junior year, which um, the guy who got first in that race, he ran a 401, and we both broke the state record for the mile. Um,
Wow.
and that led me to be the fastest miler in the country for my senior year. It just gave me a lot of opportunities to go to school, most places I wanted to go. Um, and it wasn't until after running competitively, I think in college, towards the end of my collegiate career, I started wondering what I was going to do with it. I loved running, but where does it go from here? Am I going to run professionally? Am I going to make money? And I wondered where it fit into helping other people. And so um, when I started coaching, I really started to see a new side of it, and the community side of running that I think we so much need right now.
Really quick,
Absolutely.
really quick. I have a quick question. Just so
Yeah.
Yeah.
so people who are not runners, Erik, you said a 403. What does that mean?
So the 4 minute mile has been a big barrier for a long time. I mean, it wasn't until I don't remember, mid 1900s, or I should know, when the 4 minute mile was broken. Um, and and so when I was trying to do it, only 4 high schoolers had done it ever, and so um, I ended up running 4:03, and my teammate ran 4:01, and so we didn't actually break 4 in the mile, but we were pretty close. I think all time I was like the 30th fastest mile ever for high school. So yeah, I guess it's 4 laps around the track. Um, that's the mile.
Yeah, the 4 minute mile was for so long, they said it wasn't possible. And this,
Yeah, Roger
yeah,
Bannister.
yeah, Richard, yeah, Bannister. So this is really interesting because I think it was during the 70s maybe that when he broke that, and that's when my husband was starting to run. And I remember after he broke that, because they said it couldn't be done, then he did it. And then
Right,
all of
the
a sudden
people started doing it.
you start seeing people do it. So that goes to the mindset, right, of what people think is possible. So if someone were to come to you as a brand new runner and say, I don't think I'm a runner, but it's got to be a mindset that, let me go out and try a little bit of this, maybe run walk thing and kind of get into it a little bit. Is that kind of how you start a new person off? Like go out and, say you have a mile mapped out somewhere and you walk and then you run a little bit and walk. How do you start a new person out?
Yeah, typically I like the run walk method just because to tell someone to go run for 20 minutes when they haven't been running at all can just seem like forever. And I want to put it in bite-sized pieces so that they're enjoying it. But also, if someone comes to me and tells me they don't think they're a runner, I think it's like someone coming to me and telling me they don't think they're a person. Like I think we're all born, to run, and I think we're all capable to run. And so it is a mindset. And so I think that's what I challenge. Like, what do they really want to get out of it? What are some of their goals? And also, why do they not think they're a runner? Or what, let's think about how they could be a runner. And then, and so I kind of dig into that stuff. And I typically work with them on their goals as well to help them kind of identify what's important. And so, but yeah, the bite-sized pieces are really important. Setting some goals that are attainable and aren't so far out, which was something that I struggled with, after running in college, and then coming back around to the competitive side is I felt like I needed to be winning every race, and if I wasn't, then I was failing. And so, if we're always setting goals that we're not attaining, we could kind of get hard on ourselves and get down and give up. And so if we have some goals that are reachable, we can start to see the progress. I think that's really important.
What do you find with people that just start running and then they, let's say they finally do their first mile, right? They can run a whole mile. What else changes in their life? I mean, let's say you're running with somebody, they're there with you. You're not an online coaching, you're actually with somebody and you're running with them.
Sure.
And helping. What else do you find changes for them once they've reached a goal like that? Do you see that spill over into the rest of their life?
Absolutely. I mean, like you're saying, it's not just one part of you. You have your mental, your physical, your spiritual, and so I think running and what you learn from running, plays out through your life in all different ways. And so, working through challenges, overcoming doubt, working on just monitoring your thoughts, because in the middle of a run or a race, so much can come into your thought that can be negative or positive, but um, you can kind of filter through that and you can fill it with what you want, and so but I see as people start to improve, as they start looking back at, because in the moment you don't always know you're improving until you I like to set little time trials or little check-in runs for them to see how they're improving. But I think in general, I see more confidence. I see people feeling happier, more excited about where they're going in life. Usually running on its own can be relaxing, after the fact. So, just being able to enjoy the rest of your day, you wear yourself out on the run and you become a little bit more, less stressed, I think. So, and
Yeah,
that's
physiologically. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Physiologically. I'm sure you've experienced this with, we know that when we're stressed, we have cortisol flooding our brain, right? And then you go out and you run and it clears all that stuff out of your brain, or exercise in general. But that's a
right.
huge stressor going out and running.
Well, and I think the part that I have added to it is running with other people. Not that I created that, right? But um, that is another big um, benefit, and I think something we need is that community. And I saw that a lot during COVID, where people were just stuck inside and they didn't have friends. They had moved to Austin fairly recently, and they were struggling and they were depressed and they needed people, and so they started coming outside. Not sure what would happen, but turns out running and doing things outside, it was pretty safe. Um, but just being around other people, moving, challenging yourself, um, I think we need community. And after we've already, spent, we've we've gotten more used to sitting behind computers and phones
Mm-hmm.
um, over the last 10 years, but um, COVID just, you know, times that by 100, where you're totally stuck inside. So I found like a whole new purpose during that. Like, oh, people really, I'm seeing that people need this now. I'm hearing from them. Even people come out just, yeah, I had no friends, I was stuck inside and I needed community. um, and so spending an hour or two with someone running, you get to hear their story. You get to hear what's important to them, what they're going through. And I think when you're running side by side, it's easier to talk than when you're sitting in front of somebody. And I think running on its own um, just leads to those open conversations. And I think a lot of times we don't really do that. We just kind of see people in passing. And so just spending some time with someone, connecting on the trail, has been really cool.
So that's a huge part of what you do live with people. It's this
Right.
community running as a group, or even run on, with just another person. I agree. It's very much, you're not just sitting there staring at each other, right?
Yeah.
It can be intimidating for some folks, but I would say even with going for a walk with somebody, you're moving and your brain is working and you can carry on a conversation. Of course, once you start running and you're in good shape, you can talk when you run. When you first start out, it's pretty hard to
Right.
talk when you're running. When you're first
Right.
new. I've run enough to know that you get to that place where you can just cruise and you can talk and run at the same time. So that's a huge part of a ministry, in a sense, that you have, right? Is being able to help people to get out of the house. And COVID, I would say COVID was, I've seen this with some friends of ours that, we're older, like I'm 72, my husband's 79, and we have friends that are in the 70s. And it's like they used to do more. And then after COVID, it's like they got so used to doing not much that it became a lifestyle to just stay home. So I love that you're getting people outside again, because I think there's something about nature, and I don't know, maybe you experienced this probably starting to run in the desert with your mom, but there's something, and Austin's got some awesome trails to run on. You've got some really
Absolutely.
nice to run. So would you encourage people, even if they can't run, just to get out and start moving in nature? Do you find that's really healing for the soul, in a sense?
For sure. I mean, I think Austin has a lot of trails. We don't necessarily have mountains like you do in Colorado or West Texas, but we have a lot of parks around the city that have, 3, 4, 5, 10 mile trails on them. And so we kind of just bounce around every week to different trails so that people get to explore. And we have people that are hiking too. We have some people run walking, people hiking in the back, especially coming off of injuries, or people that are, new to running and just starting up. And yeah, I think the feeling, it's just a more natural, relaxed feeling when you step outside onto a trail than you might inside a gym or even just, yes, it's nice to go have coffee with a friend, but I find like I it feels just, I don't know exactly to put words on it, but there's something just more open about going for a walk, on a trail with someone. And I think it just breeds like this, openness and ability. I think that's something that I really enjoy is being outside, right? So, and yeah, and I've had friends that have gotten used to the COVID lifestyle. And so they're just kind of all working from home, not going and doing anything. They're kind of depressed and they're just like, yeah, we don't have any friends here anymore. And I'm really just, sad to hear that. And I think it's, you can control that stuff too. Like you don't, whether you want to work from home or not, that's fine. Like I think people like it, but there's, challenges with that on its own. But I think figure out what's serving you, and if you need, like, I think we all need to be getting outside. And so yeah, hiking, walking, running, all those things, just moving and then challenging yourself. I think that's like my goal is to get people outside. And then once I get them outside, I want to challenge them and I want to get them to push through and overcome certain challenges because I think that's where we find life, right? Is working through difficult experiences um and yeah, we're not having to go hunt for food. We're not having to go, in our own way. So to me, these are we're learning to do some of those primal things in a different way, and I think we still need that. Um, so
Yeah, I love that word primal. Jimmy, did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm going to change the topic for a second and
Yeah.
just get into some details about. So Eric, someone's brand new to running. I mean, obviously everybody can just run on the streets, but specific questions as, does the surface matter? And do you recommend a specific surface to run on for a specific type of runners?
um, I think the first thing is just to get out and to get moving. But um, if you're competing for a trail race, I would say yes, there are, you know, beliefs of like, okay, softer terrain is softer on your body. To me, I think it's just about adding diversity. And so I would, I like to do road runs. I like to do trail runs, like technical trails like Bull Creek or Barton Creek Greenbelt. And then I like to do something on like Lady Bird or Town Lake, which is a trail, but it's not a dip. It's kind of like a road, but it's soft. There's no roots, there's no rocks. And so I find like when you're on the road, you're going to run faster. When you're on the trail, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. You're going to be working different parts of your muscles. So, and that's what we do. We have, half of our runs on the road and half are on the trail. And just getting that balance, I think, is good for, long-term growth as a runner.
Okay, great. And let me ask a question for, I guess, more advanced runners or just runners in general. What are some of the biggest obstacles that runners encounter?
Well, I think one obstacle is overtraining and injuries. So um, runners can tend to just run, and that's all we do. It's like we forget about cross training, we forget about strength work. And something that I try to do is like, even recently now in college, we had 3 days a week we would go to the gym. But something I've tried exploring with is like, okay, every day I'm just going to do 20 minutes of strength after my run, and see how that feels, see how my body reacts to that. Because I find like doing a little bit every day might be better than spacing it out and doing big strength sessions. And plus, I think the majority of people aren't going to do, an extra hour of strength when they're already running an hour a day. Like I have that time because this is what I do, but I don't think everybody does. So I think overtraining slash injury is a big thing. Also, like people come into our group and they're so excited. They see other people running like 100 miler and they're like, I want to do that this year. And they kind of jump straight to it. And it's
I
easy
don't
to
ever
get
want
burnt
to do
out.
that.
So Jimmy, when do you want to run your 100? I will. So what I think is healthy and smart is like, let's look at, and I'm not a planner, but people come to me and they're like, I have my 3-year plan, and it starts with a marathon this year, a 50K or a 50 miler next year, and then a 100 miler in 3 years. And I think that gives you a lot more time to work with. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but it could even be like, okay, I want to focus on a 5K this year, a 10K next year, and a half marathon in 3 years. It doesn't always have to be longer is better. It could be like, let's stick with a certain distance for a little while and see how we can improve and really have fun with that. Because the training doesn't vary a ton between like a half marathon and a marathon, and then a marathon and a 50 miler. I mean, you're only going to have so much time to run in a given week.
So
So
do
yeah.
you? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to think of more problems, but that's probably the some of the big ones.
So you mentioned, cross training. So is that something that you provide, or does the people that are getting coaching from you, they have to find their own personal trainer outside?
So we do both. Like some people, and also people in our group have their own coaches. Like we have coaches, but some people just come with us to run with the group, and then they have their own coaches. Some people use us as for coaching, but so we offer strength coaching as well. We have an app that we work with to give them strength programs to do. And then during COVID, I did just live recorded on Zoom a strength class, two strength classes every week. So we have an app, our Trail Roots app, that has all of our runs on it, and they can go and see those workouts at any time and follow along. So it
Okay,
is
cool.
unfortunately more of like a side thing that I'm trying to get people to really incorporate into their training. But people don't tend to do it until they're injured, and then they're like, "Oh shit,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got to start doing all these other things." And
yeah.
then they
That's
do it
very
until they
similar.
get healthy again.
Yeah,
And then when they're
and then they
healthy, they're
stop.
like, you get. I mean, yeah, I'm actually talking about myself. So, um,
Yeah,
uh,
it's not your
it's
favorite thing. You'd rather run. Yeah.
well, it's easy just to look at like you're counting your miles for the week. You want to hit this mileage, but the over time, I'm learning that it's more beneficial for me to maybe spend a little less time running and a little more time doing some mobility exercises, doing strength work, and even just mindfulness activities or meditation. To like, it's not always having to be go go go. And I think that's what I've been used to, and I'm realizing like, okay, I need to kind of center myself a little bit. Do some yoga, stretch it out, just slow down a little bit. Has been helpful for me too, which is
You
probably
know, I
Yeah,
will,
what
there's a
Jimmy, what you do a lot of.
yeah,
yes. There's like the saying, you have to in order to speed up, you got to slow down first. So
yeah.
Yeah.
one last question for me is, so let's say someone wants to run, like Austin's got a lot, the 3M, the half marathon or the marathon.
Hmm.
When should somebody start training? What's the perfect timeline to start training for something like that?
Yeah, I typically like if someone's coming from scratch, like I think 6 months is a good time. If you're doing nothing and for a marathon, like if you're not running at all and you haven't been running, I would give yourself a year. But I would start with a half marathon, and I think if you've been running a little bit, then 4 months is good. But 6 months to like kind of start your base building phase and then adding some workouts in and then goal setting and stuff like that, I think is a good amount of time. People can do it in less, but I like to have um, time for people to have like the recovery built in, and say someone has a little injury pop up, you can work through it in a week, and you're not stressed out about, oh, I have to keep running or else I'm gonna ruin my race. So if we plan a little time in for that and all the other stuff, 6 months is good.
Yeah, I think that I think it's Tony Robbins that said this, I can't remember. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in like 2 years. Like they say, well, I'm going to go, like you said, they're going to go for it. And then, but if you just plod along for a couple of years, it's amazing consistently what you can do. So I think that the most important thing is to start. And
I think so.
That's it, right?
Well, it's just like there's plenty of times where it's just getting out the door, right? Like you're thinking about it a long time, and then you're like, if I just kind of stop thinking and just move outside, close the door, put on my shoes, and start moving, even if I'm walking. Like after my wife had our son, that's what she did. She's like, and I encourage her, I'm like, just put on your shoes and just see what comes. But if you sit there and you think about it, and yeah, and I think it's a mindset, right? And our fatigue can be a mindset too. So it's all these things that how you think about it can dictate what's happening. And so I think the more we practice through that stuff, um, yeah, the better.
I think that's such a good point because I actually, in one of our programs, when we talk about moving your body, it's one of the first things I say is put your shoes on, open the door, and close the door behind you, and do not turn around. Like,
Right.
second guess the fact that you're going out the front door. It's just that we talk ourselves out of it so much of the time, like, oh, I don't have the energy, or oh, I don't have the time, or I just, we have this excuse of why we aren't going to do it, when we just have to just tune out all those little voices in our head. It's the angel and the devil on the shoulder, right? It's like he's
Right.
over here telling you, no, you don't have the time, and over here is, no, you should do this. And we have to literally just tune it out and just go. And just putting your shoes on and walking out the door is a huge thing for a lot of people. And getting, like you said, getting away from the devices, getting away from the computer, getting away from the cell phones, and getting out in nature, I think that is huge for people. And what you said, there's a primal thing in all of us, that we can run, but it's just part of our DNA that we should be outside. That's just part of our DNA. And I think COVID really kind of put us back in a box, and we need to move. We need to get out and move our
For
bodies.
sure.
I love.
think too.
Go ahead.
Oh, just the expectations you put on a run, or you put on what you think it's going to be, is important. And I think I love setting goals. I think it's been very valuable from my experience, but just having that as a starting point. And then if it doesn't go exactly how you plan, like how do you adapt and how do you stick in it? And I think that's, people think the run's going to last or be a certain way, or it's going to feel a certain way, and just be open to what it's going to bring. Um, and and sometimes it takes me a few miles before I even warm up into a run. I'm like 3 or 4 miles in, and then I'm like, okay, I'm starting to relax. I'm feeling stronger. Where a lot of times it's like if you would have turned around, you would have just thought, oh, I was going to feel bad all day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. Every day your body's, it depends on what you've been dealing with, and you physically, emotionally, mentally. But
Right.
movement is wonderful. Now you've got, I know, we can put this in the feed. I think you have a coupon that you gave us for, is it a discount
Oh,
coupon?
trial month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's for just a free trial month for anyone that is interested in coming out. And so that has access to all of our runs, our app, which has the strength workouts, and just to the community to get to talk to other people. Like we're very welcoming and all different levels. And I find like when you're doing something with somebody else, you see them doing it, it's going to feel like you're going to start to believe that you can do it. And so that's what we're doing. And yeah, anybody that's interested, feel free to reach out. And that's a free month to come out and run with us.
Awesome. Well, we'll put that in the feed. And then this goes up on YouTube, on our channel on YouTube. So we'll make sure and put that in there in the notes on YouTube for them to have that. It was a QR code, right?
It was. And then there's also, we have 4 trail races we do every year. And so there's coming up in November is one out at Reimer's Ranch. And then for the first time, we're putting on the race in Big Bend in January. So if you haven't been out to Big Bend and you want to get out to the desert, that has, and we have 5Ks up to 100Ks and 50 milers. So we have all distances too. So yeah, check it out. But yeah, I think that's a QR code on that coupon.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow. That's beautiful. Well, Jimmy, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just say, this is for all of our, listeners. This is, if you're in Austin, this is a great way to just to get active. It's like Eric's saying, it's easier to exercise when you have, a group, when you're in a community. You get the accountability, you get the support versus doing it yourself. Because if you're trying to do things yourself, a lot of times you're gonna quit. And so you need that family, you need that support to help you. And then also at the same time, you will have the opportunity to be that support for someone else. So one thing is to receive it, the other one's to dispense it yourself. And so that's what a community brings to you. And there's no better way to do it. Join Erik and his company and just get out there and run. If not just for maybe you don't like running, it's okay. I mean, there's walking, running, right? Just getting out in nature. So we'll definitely have that, his company information in the all over social media. Erik, any last words before we sign off that you want to say to our audience?
No, I think I encourage you guys to challenge yourselves, whatever that is, whether it's, and I think running, if you believe you're not a runner, um, give us a month, come out and we'll convert you. And just the power of the community, the power of challenging yourselves is strong. And so I believe in you, and we believe in you. So let's get after it.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's gonna bring some pit bulls. Gonna be chasing after you,
hopefully.
some dogs. You'll be a
That'll
runner.
get you running. Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Well, thank
much.
you.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Erik, for
Thanks,
being on
you
the
guys.
show. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all.
Bye for now.
Awesome. We are
We're
offline.
Offline. Okay. Thank you very much. That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Went by quick. Okay.
I know it does. It's amazing how quick 30 minutes goes by. But good information, and hopefully you'll get some new folks to join you, or maybe they'll start their own thing. If they're not in Austin, they might just get motivated to get a group of people together and head out.
Well, and that's the thing. Like as I've had people move from Austin, and they're trying to find that, they're like, we need to start a trail routes in wherever they are in Georgia and New York, and so there's running clubs all over, but for some reason there's something unique about the trail and about, I think it's kind of what we didn't talk about it today, but just that intentional time before the run, because there's a lot of people in our group that I think are spiritual, but they're not really open about it, or it's like they don't want to talk about it. And so I think and they don't go to church. So it's like this time to really have some reflection and intentional time is really important. So
yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah.
That's really great ministry that you have there. Yeah. All righty.
So Erik, I got one last question. So since you do online coaching, couldn't somebody anywhere in the world, I mean, since you can do it through Zoom, you could help them start a Trail Roots Club, right?
That's something Cindy and I were talking about. She was like, you got to decide, like, do you want a franchise or do you want to, but yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much like I've started to, with my business coach from a few years ago to working with Abba right now, have the like systems in place for like, this is how you start it, or this is
Yeah.
how we start it somewhere else, you know. But yeah,
Okay.
I've had people reach out to me before in other cities like, hey, I want to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And maybe I talked to them once or twice, but nothing like, I don't know where that's gone. So,
Okay.
but yeah,
would think-
All right.
I like, when I think about a vision for long term, like opening up other locations and helping other people open up other running communities like this is really exciting to me. So
Yeah, I think that could really happen for sure. You know, running was such a big thing for a lot of years. Like when we were running, is in the 70s and the 80s, it was really big, and then it kind of faded away. And I think what you're doing is bringing people back outside again is super important. I bet it would take off. I really do.
let's do it. Well, and I think
Yeah.
it's changed from like, it used to be a more select, small, like the races have, you know, blown up in size versus what they used to be. Or, you know, they might have used to be like a couple hundred people or a couple thousand, where now they're 20 to 30,000 people. But it's not
Wow.
everybody running. There's people that are, you know, walking it.
Yeah.
And so I think running has grown a lot. But and even in Austin, there's a lot of running groups, and there's a lot of free groups. There's a lot of paid groups. Each has their own unique thing. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, but
All right.
online, we coach people all over. I have a guy in Africa right
Wow.
now. I have um, yeah, it's a
Awesome.
lot of fun. Yeah, thanks you
awesome.
guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
It was great to meet you.
You too, and
I'll see you.
maybe I'll see you tomorrow, Jimmy.
Right? Yep. See you
Okay,
tomorrow,
sounds
Erik.
good.